What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of TEW Confrontational. My name is Ty Workington. I'm here with my little brother, Evan Workington. And today we have a very special episode for you guys. As we mentioned last episode, the month of March is Women's History Month. And we want to take a step away from kind of all the sports and everything and kind of just focus and recognize and appreciate all the women around the world and everything. So that's kind of what we're going to be diving into. We got two incredible women here sitting with us. We have the pleasure and honor of having them on, and we're lucky enough to have them in our lives. So sitting with us here today, we get to hear from what their perspective is on women in today's society, gender equality, and maybe things they had to go through as female successful people to kind of get where they're at today. So let's go ahead and introduce these two incredible women. And so sitting with us today, like I said, two incredible, amazing, successful women. One of them has been a huge influence, not only in Sioux Falls, with that been the executive director of 3 different nonprofit organizations, working for 4 different nonprofit organizations around Sioux Falls for 20 plus years, but also for the entire state of South Dakota, starting at the age of 27. Back then, being named the youngest division director of the state government in history. Yeah, so 27 years old, entering in the state government. That's pretty impressive. So
huge deal.
Yeah, and now she's the currently serving as the executive director of Eastern South Dakota for the American Red Cross. So truly honored and pleased to introduce the woman who introduced you and me to this thing they call life, I guess.
Absolutely.
One who raised the two of us and the men we are today, and showed us that if you work hard enough, anything is possible. The only woman that's ever made 2 mistakes in her life.
Yeah.
Right here. The one we call Mama, Patty Sweeney Brooks. So yeah, we're pleased to have Mom on, and we're gonna get a little bit of insight of what she thinks and all that stuff about women's history and just how she got to where she was at today. Then another lovely lady sitting with us today, person never ceases to amaze me, at least. One of the hardest working people that I know, not only grinding through 4 or 5 years of college, but also graduating college and now works as a nurse, spends countless hours, days, weekends, nights, helping and taking care of the sick and ill patients at the Avera Brain and Spine unit. So we're super pleased and honored to have one of the best registered critical care neuro nurses in the state, the beautiful, smart, funny, lovely Ashley Chenoweth. So
thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate that, and I'm excited to see your viewpoints on kind of the journey you guys had throughout life, and all the experiences that you've had, maybe that a lot of male individuals around the world have not experienced yet. So I'm pumped to hear about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you guys for coming on. We'll just jump right into it then. How about we start with you, Mom?
Patricia.
Why don't you just introduce kind of yourself to everyone, how you kind of got to the point where you're at now in life. So growing up, what kind of motivated you to kind of be going into like what you do now and stuff like that. So just kind of
just a
rundown of like what all occurred in your life to where you're at.
Sure.
To this point.
And how much time do we have? Just kidding. Okay.
We'll go into depth here when we get to the questions, but kind of just a short brief.
All
we
right.
already mentioned you worked for 4 different nonprofit organizations.
Yep. So obviously your mom. Been doing that for how many years? No, just kidding.
27
at least. Okay, go in there. But no, I have worked in federal government and state government and local nonprofits, and always knew that I think after I started working in local nonprofits that was where my passion was. It wasn't like to make the money. It wasn't to, rise in the career ladder or do anything like that. It was just about the mission of the organizations and giving back to the community. Born and raised here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and this is my home. This is my love. This is where I'm connected to. So this is why I wanted to stay, and that's why I continued to work in nonprofits. How do I got here? Again, grew up in Sioux Falls, moved away for a while, lived in D.C. That's when I was in federal government. Went to a couple different colleges and universities, graduated from the University of South Dakota. Go Yotes!
Yep.
Anyway, and then I did some work toward my master's degree. Never did quite finish that because work and kids and life and things got in the way. But yeah, I'm happy to be here and joining you today, and hopefully can give you some perspective on what I feel is my journey as a woman through a career in my life today.
Heck yeah, we definitely have some questions that we want to get to about kind of your journey. You said you moved away, went to DC when you were younger, like what, 18, something like that, or close?
Yeah, about 17, I thought.
I was 17. I graduated younger. You know, back then the age when you started kindergarten changed a little bit. Okay. So I was the youngest one, one of the younger ones in my class. So I graduated in June. I was 17, but didn't turn 18 until August as my birth month. But yeah, right after I graduated, took the civil service exam and moved to Washington, D.C. and worked out there for the Department of Justice, United States Trustees.
Heck yeah, we'll definitely take a deeper dive into that because, yeah, it's super interesting, like all the different jobs that you've had. Yeah, like you said, Department of Corrections, you worked out in D.C., you Habitat for Humanity, Red Cross, Compass Center, Multiple Sclerosis Society, so many different things that we'll dive into and just kind of see what you've taken away from each kind of career path that you've chosen to pursue and everything like that. But I want to introduce Ashley. We kind of already kind of gave a brief introduction, but I want to kind of just get your thoughts, same thing, how you got to where you're at today, what school, where you grew up, all that good stuff. So why don't you just tell everyone about yourself, a little bit about yourself. So
yeah, like they said, my name's Ashley. I was originally born and raised in Mitchell, South Dakota. Go Colonels.
Yeah.
From then, I kind of just got my hard work passion from my parents. My mom's a pharmacist. My dad's a service manager at Iverson, so I've always had a good work ethic from them. And then I just eventually knew I wanted to go into the medical field. I originally was going for radiology technology, and then paths kind of changed and went into nursing, and I've loved being a nurse ever since. I graduated from the University of Sioux Falls, so go Sioux Falls, like it always has been, always will be. And then now I've been a nurse for 2 years out of Aaron McKinnon in the neuro ICU, and I absolutely love it. And then I guess I will be transitioning over to the Rivals of Augustana here in June for nurse practitioner school. So
heck yeah. So we'll want to.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Ashley, for coming on. We'll want to dive a little bit, like I said, and you mentioned it too. One of the hardest working people that I know, and not just in school or anything, just everything that is thrown your way. You're always going 110%. And then also we want to kind of dive into like how you started as a nurse and you're doing clinicals and kind of transitioning and where you may want to end up later down in the nursing field. Obviously you love nursing. You'll probably stay in the nursing or medical field in the hospital kind of area, but we kind of see like what your next 5, 10, 15 years down the line looks like as far as being in the nursing field. So we'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, we just want to thank both of you guys for coming on today.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And so we have a few questions here. There's some for both of you, some for specifically designed for each of you. It's not necessarily interview type questions, but we kind of just want to get your opinion on a few things. Like we said, the gender roles, gender equality, and a few other kind of things, because it is Women's History Month. Women have been, I want to say, the backbone of our society. Like they're always there. Like the reason why everyone is able to reproduce is because of women. They go through the most strained full time or strenuous, whatever that word is. But I mean, having a baby, carrying it for 9 months, raising it, like things like that, there's a lot of
absolutely
a lot of dedication, time, pain, tears, like blood, sweat, like everything. Like you put your whole entire life. So like women play a huge role. We're so thankful to have the women that we do in our lives, such as mom. Yep. And then I have a girlfriend like Ashley, like just amazing people in our lives. So definitely honored to have them on. We'll dive a little bit deeper into their thoughts. So
so kind of going we'll start with mom, you think?
We can
just kind of your career paths and how many you said mentioned nonprofit, and that was always your passion throughout your older part of your life, you'd say. I know you worked at was it Multiple MS Society. You were a correctional officer, like you mentioned. Then you worked for the Compass Center. And then you worked for Red Cross, and there's another one I'm missing. Habitat for Humanity. And all those are great professions, or great routes. I just want to kind of ask you, in your terms, what's the takeaway from each of the four nonprofits that I had mentioned? What was your biggest takeaway, and then also why did you choose that nonprofit to join?
Yeah.
Or be a part of?
And I feel like I should have my resume in front of me. I feel like it's a lot about my career and the different jobs I've had. But each job, I think, has taken me a step further in my career. I always try to take a step up. Lateral is great. Lateral is awesome if you're able to do it within your career and your work life. But for me, it was always wanting to take that one step up. So I've learned a lot. And also being under other folks, when I was with the MS Society, I was a program director. We had North Dakota and South Dakota and Iowa in our area, at that time it was chapter division. But what I learned from my executive director at that time, I took a lot of lessons from the leadership above me too. Mm-hmm. And that was a female, and that was a woman's leader that I looked up to and I respected. Right. And things didn't always work out right? Even as a program director at that level, I made decisions that were not good decisions, and I had to take a step back, rechange things up, and do it over again. So I learned a lot what not to do early in my career, not just what to do and what was successful, but everything I did was a stepping stone to where I'm at now. And so, working when I came out of college, my degree was political science and criminal justice.
Right, nothing near kind of what you went into as a career.
So I started out as a correctional officer, but I loved the work. It was very interesting, and I think I would tell stories about my work there on the day-to-day. It's a very interesting field to work in, and I truly enjoyed it, but I liked more of the administrative part. I found that out really early on, like writing policies and doing the procedures and figuring out your operational memorandums for the DOC. So I moved very quickly into that role. Like 10 months after I started with DOC, I was promoted and moved to peer, which I took on that position as a policy analyst and a PR person for that department. And then I moved over to human services and was a division director for a couple different divisions in state government, appointed, as you mentioned.
27 years old.
I was young. I was appointed by the governor to an interim position and then a permanent division director position at that time. But again, state government, I love it. There was a lot of bureaucracy. There was a lot of red tape, which I respect and I appreciate. Yeah. I think you need that in government. But I learned a lot from that. That wasn't for me. I preferred to be a leader, to be an administrator, to make my own policies, to make my own decisions, to write the procedures, and to really grow a nonprofit to what my vision was going to be the next step or for the next generation.
And handling that type of business comes with a lot of money, because nonprofit is not funded by taxpayers. It's not funded by any of that money. It's grants. It's loan, not necessarily loans, but you apply for grants. What is the biggest kind of budget that you've had working for and you've worked for huge nonprofits? Habitat for Humanity is huge in Sioux Falls, and in South Dakota, American Red Cross is huge around the whole entire nation. What is kind of the biggest budget, or I shouldn't say biggest budget, but what has been kind of your biggest accomplishment or thing that you were most proud of being a part of, or you know what I mean? So I mean, money is money, but what is something that you've actually done that you're made you feel I actually did something really good? And I'm not saying all of your businesses or all of the nonprofit organizations you're a part of were great organizations, but what's one touched your heart and made it feel okay, this is maybe what I want to do for the rest of my life, or you know what I mean?
Right. I there's parts of all three of them that I've been the executive director of that I could probably lean to and say that's what was my trigger of what I wanted to stay in nonprofit work. My first executive director was the Compass Center, which was formerly known as the Rape and Domestic Abuse Center here in Sioux Falls. That was a true personal passion of mine, just from my experience, my life history, what I knew. Loved it. Loved the job, loved giving back, loved being that victim advocate for people of domestic violence and sexual assault. I remember getting calls in the middle of the night and going out to a sexual assault at either Sanford or Avera and meeting with that victim and being that victim advocate till 4 o'clock in the morning. Very passionate about it. Loved it.
Was that the type of job where you had to be on call every other weekend or once a month?
We had enough staff and volunteers. I think I was on call for a week at a time, from Friday at 8 a.m. to the next Friday at 8 a.m. So it's a week.
And so that's literally
But it was only every 7 or 8 weeks I had to do that.
Yes, so, but that's a week out of your whatever month or whatever, 6, 7, 8 weeks, whatever you did. That's 24/7.
It was 24/7,
especially with that type of work. I mean, it's not. Unfortunately, it happens quite a bit.
It does
quite often.
Yeah.
So
I bet you, because I remember when you used to be on call for those type of cases and stuff. I don't think there was a night where you were on call that you never got called in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, it's very unfortunately, it's very common. It happens very frequently, which is very unfortunate. But yeah, you were basically there when the police arrived at the hospital at the same time to get the police would get their story about the criminal side of it, but you were there helping the victim of that case, whether it be male or female.
Correct.
There was both. It wasn't just males being, it was vice versa too.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I mean, it wasn't just like a female driven, even though, yeah, a majority of the percent of the time it is male against female, but there were cases where males were the victim of domestic
Absolutely.
violence.
Yeah.
So
And I worked there so long ago now that I'm sure those percentages have changed, but it was 80% female victim, 20% male. And those probably have changed since then. But it really tied my education, my criminal justice degree, into that field. So it was a very personal connection to me when I worked at the Compass Center. I think the most challenging nonprofit to lead as an executive director for me was Habitat. Not because it was just so far-fetched and too difficult for me. I was running like 3 nonprofits in one. So I was running a nonprofit, right, the Habitat for Greater Sioux Falls, but I also run a construction company because Habitat builds homes.
I want to kind of explain what Habitat for Humanity is.
Right. So
for people that don't know.
Yeah, Habitat for Humanity builds homes at whatever cost we have, but we sell them to individuals who are qualified, who may be income non-eligible for a traditional loan or mortgage.
so lower income housing
Right.
type.
But it's not necessarily lower income. It's quality homes that appraised at great values. But the best part of it, we were able to finance it for these individuals at 0%.
So they can afford it.
They can
so
afford it.
don't-
We kept
yeah.
those payments down, right?
Yeah.
So they could actually have the life dream of owning a home. If they're
Exactly.
low income, this is probably too far out for them
Right.
to imagine in their lifetime. So that was a part of it. So I was running a nonprofit, running a construction company, and part of the proceeds of the Habitat Restore, people donate items that we repurposed and resold, was going toward our construction costs. So I
Right.
was running a retail, like a sales
So, yeah, 3
operation as
different
well. So
businesses
it
in
was
one.
like 3 different businesses in one. So that was super challenging when I was with that
Right,
nonprofit.
and that's something that you don't have really any background in either. I mean, you're very qualified. Your resume shows that you're qualified for the job, but you didn't really have any background in. I mean, obviously helping the
Less fortunate.
obviously with the things that you did previous to that, but it wasn't. You didn't have any knowledge in building homes. You didn't have any, like, with all the construction side, the retail side. You never worked in retail. I mean, Burger King, but that's not necessarily. But you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't. It's kind of crazy that you're taking on these challenges that you don't have any background.
Right.
I mean, not background knowledge, but like any
Right.
experience.
Yeah. And
So
you want to
what-
touch on one thing to kind of tie it again with our podcast. It's a lot of sports.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge sports figure in the NFL right now. Deshaun Watson came from a home from Habitat for Humanity, which
He
is pretty
did.
cool.
He
so
grew up in a Habitat
kind of
home.
tying that into this
Yeah.
podcast. So it's
Yeah.
just pretty cool.
Right. I mean, like I said, like these aren't just Sioux Falls. Yeah, greater habitat of Sioux Falls.
Yep.
But it's Habitat for Humanity is nationwide as well.
Correct.
And so, yeah, just great. You've had a tremendous journey, and like me and Evan will wait 5 years and be like, oh, where's mom gonna go work next? Because you do tend to but you kind of fulfill like what you think is your role in that position, and you kind of start looking for a new challenge.
Yeah.
What gives you, or what drives your, where does that determination or like strive come from to always want to challenge yourself or learn something new? You know what I mean? So like I said, you didn't have any background, but why did you take on that challenge for Habitat for Humanity if you didn't really know what you were doing? Besides running a business, obviously.
Right.
But like,
It is like running a business. I'll say twofold. I've learned a lot along the way that I don't have to know the ins and outs of construction or a retail business. I just have to know how to run a nonprofit, and you surround yourself with really good people that know how to do the ins and outs. So I don't have to be the expert in everything. I just got to get people on my team that are the experts. So that's first and foremost.
And that's-
I don't have to be the know-it-all of end-all, and you have to put that ego aside. I'm not that. I just want to be the person that brings everybody together. That's really a good nonprofit leader.
Right.
But I'll tell you back to your question of why I keep on trying to take a step up and move my career forward, even at my age. I think it goes back to even when I pursued education. When I graduated high school, I moved right to DC right away. I didn't want to go necessarily to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to spend the money on college tuition till I figured out what I wanted to do. So I worked for Department of Justice, and then I went to University of Iowa and to University of South Dakota. But after my first full year of college, on resident, on campus at those two places, I worked a full-time job at Citibank from 3:30 to midnight, drove down to USD and went to class from 8 to 2. That is where I think my drive came from. If you want something bad enough, you're going to, like Ashley talked about, and she's going to probably talk about this later, going to working your full-time job, and now she's taking on her nurse practitioner starting in June. She's going to double up. I think women, we have a tendency to do that. I think that's part of our nature. We do whatever it takes to get the job done, whether it's your family, whether it's your college, whether it's your education, your career. We just innately figure out how to do stuff, and we just figure it out and make it happen and work twice as hard sometimes as our counterparts men do to have to get the same job done.
Yeah.
Right. 100%
Perfect.
agree.
And this could segue into multiple questions here, but I kind of want to just get a question for both of you guys because we haven't heard from Ashley much. But was there, like, and that you mentioned this, the female leader when you weren't the executive director of that nonprofit that you looked up to, do you or did you have any kind of like women leader or mentor, or like, are there specific women who inspired you to be a nurse? Or like, I know your story, obviously we've been together for a couple of years now, but I know your story on kind of why you wanted to be a nurse. But were there any women in your life that were like, that you looked up to? Obviously maybe your mom, but any other kind of role models that you had looking up to, kind of that helped you or pushed you in a certain direction? Or
Oh yeah, for sure. Besides my mom, she was obviously like my biggest role model. She's a pharmacy manager for Walgreens, so a bigger pharmaceutical company. Knowing what she goes day in, day out, I low-key can relate to what she goes through, even though I'm in a hospital-based setting. But
right, kind of both medical though in an aspect.
I'd also have to say my softball coach that I had through middle school and high school, Denise, she pushed me day in, day out. She knew I wanted to be a leader, so she pushed me to be a leader. And then I guess that kind of took into both
kind of just soaked in. You kind of just grew that kind of leadership
right. Yeah, I just took the leadership mentality. I've always had that, and I've kind of am that way now as a nurse. I'm a charge nurse. I was a charge nurse within a year of being a nurse.
Explain what a charge, like for people that don't know what a charge nurse is.
Charge nurses. So we have a 36-bed unit up on the neuro ICU, and yeah, so we have 16 med-surg beds and 16 ICU beds. So I'm in charge of like the 16 med-surg beds. So I take care of, oversee all the 4 nurses and the 16 patients. And that goes the same way for the ICU area also. So I just kind of oversee the other nurses and help them out when they need it type thing.
So
that's moving up pretty quickly. You were a year before she was named charge nurse. That's pretty advanced.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't say the best the best registered neuro charge nurse in the state for a reason, but no. And that's like the charge nurse is more of the lead nurse on the floor at that time.
Right.
And so just a leader, and you did it in less than under a year. Obviously, you're appreciated at the hospital. You love being a nurse. Oh, Hank Will's down here too.
Sorry, Hank.
What were you barking at, buddy?
We got puppies everywhere. Is he okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No worries. But yeah, so I was just very hardworking, as dedicated. A lot of her time, like I said, countless hours, nights, weekends, all the time working at the hospital. What kind of made you want to be a nurse, or what kind of drove you? I know the hard work and everything, but got that from your female role models. But what kind of made you go into the nursing field, or why did you want to do nursing? Because you can be a leader in a lot of different things, but what made nursing kind of the go-to?
I always told myself before I even was a nurse, I didn't want to be a nurse. It's kind of a, what do you want to say? There's a word for it. I can't think of it.
You think like stereotypical?
No, not stereotypical. There's another word saying that. I was going to say I wasn't going to do something, but now I am.
Hypocrite?
No, kind of a slap in my face, or like I don't know what you want to say. But I always told myself I didn't want to be a nurse. Not sure why I ever said that. But then now that I am a nurse, I'm like, why did I say I never wanted to be a nurse? I had couple of reasons why I wanted to be a nurse. I had a teammate that passed away from cancer that kind of hit close to home. But then I've also seen my grandpa pass away too from cancer. That was pretty hard on us as a family. And I just knew I had to give my caring hand to other people type thing.
Right. And yeah, that story, that like when I asked her why you wanted to be a nurse earlier on in our relationship, and she told me the story about her grandpa passing away in the hospital from cancer. Yeah, kind of was fading in and out, and then kind of the monitor went flat, and then yeah, you were in there. Your whole family was pretty much in there, and you were giving CPR and stuff to
Yeah, it's
grandpa. So,
kind of a story I don't want to talk about,
right,
just
and
because I
won't
get pretty emotional about it, and
right, but
it's pretty deep. But yeah, it was
you were hands-on.
Well, I was firsthand, and
Yeah.
that's kind of, I was like, I have to be a nurse like that. And I was in nursing school at that time, and that really just kind of hit the nail in the butt that I was like, you have to be a nurse, you got to do that, and be that person able to give those caring hands. And we see some very, very sick people in the neuro ICU, and young people that are my dad's age that have passed away from serious brain bleeds and things like that. So a lot of things always hit close to home when I'm working, but knowing that I have a heart in the caring hands and knowing I'm doing absolutely everything I can for these families is kind of my biggest thing. So
yeah, and you've come home, obviously not talking HIPAA and stuff, but you come home and the nurses or the patients have been saying, we appreciate you so much, you've gotten the like top nurse of the week multiple times in a row, like things of that nature. So I'm not surprised that you moved up as quickly as you did, but then it just goes back to that hard work. Like you literally give 110% for anything that you put yourself into. So that's awesome. Going back to like the nursing and everything like that, and this is like stereotypical and things of that nature, but how come like 98% of the nursing, or like why do you think that 98% of like the nursing field are mostly females? I mean, and this goes kind of like to the caring. I mean, I don't think it's just you that cares about all of these people.
Right.
Obviously there's a bunch of other nurses, but like
I think it kind of has to just go with that. Us as women, we have that caring and nurture side of us. We have to carry children with us for 9 months, like we carry, so like it just kind of makes it that way.
But you're not saying females are better nurses than males, are you?
I'm not gonna say that. I mean, we have great male nurses on the unit,
yes.
and we also have great female nurses. There's nothing about that. You do see a lot of different ratios of, I mean, I see more male doctors
and then female nurses rather than
right.
vice versa.
So like I see it that way, but any doctor that we've had, male or female, they're all very smart. They know what they're talking about. So I always give props to them. So it's you can't just say like somebody's better than the other person.
Right. But
so
what would you say to someone that does want to kind of get into the nursing field, or male or female? What would you say? What would be kind of like your advice to somebody who wants to become a nurse or wants to get into that field? What advice would you give those type of people?
It's difficult. It's hard work. Takes a lot of your mentality away from yourself. Really digs deep into actually saying, like, can you actually do this for the rest of your life? Just in those 4 years when you're going to nursing school, you will learn a lot. It's grueling. You have a lot of studying to do. But if you put your mind to it, you guys can do it. It's if you have a passion for it, just you have to do it.
And at the end of the day, isn't it kind of like rewarding to know you're doing your best to like help people? I think that's I think that'd be a big factor, especially because and Mom, you've been in that same position, not obviously as a nurse, but in those type of nonprofits that do help out. And it's very rewarding that you're able to help out and give a helping hand.
And a fun kind of fact to that, though, and I'm sure Ashley can relate to this, you make some of the best connections with your coworkers. Like, they're your friends. They become your family, especially the hours that you work. I have friends from back in the MS Society days that we still get together on an annual basis because of the mission that you're working toward or the people that you're helping. It really does draw you in, and you become best friends for life, which is kind of cool,
100%.
too.
For sure.
I've
For
met
sure.
a bunch of Ashley's nursing friends. We're actually in a volleyball league right now with our nursing friends. So yeah, when you're there for 12 hours,
Day in and day out,
yeah,
and
you only
work with
get-
the same few people, you get pretty close with a lot of them. So there's a couple girls that I'm pretty close with that I kind of went under their wing because I was like, I need assistance or I need help, and they were always there helping me out because there's days I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and
for sure.
they were there to keep me sane when I didn't know what the heck was going on. But
yeah, friends and
So-
family are always going to be
Yeah.
the ones that you can lean on and rely on for anything. So, but another thing is, like, for both of you, is another question for both of you. I know you really didn't get to answer who your role models were, but you did kind of mention, were there any role models that you had growing up besides Jen that you mentioned with the not the Compass Center, the Multiple Sclerosis Society, where you were just the division or the chapter, whatever, leader, not the executive director? Any other kind of female inspiration or role models that you had growing up, looking up to and stuff like that?
Again, I think I did learn a lot from Jen. She was the executive director and I was the program director at the MS Society. Learned a lot during those few years. But personally, I have an older sister who is super smart and talk about entrepreneurial
Right.
and wanting to start her own business and finding a need in a community. I mean, she has figured that out to a T. So I look up to her and just her work ethic and her her drive and her commitment and her entrepreneurial spirit to start her own business, which she did in Northern California,
Right.
to help with the licensing and all the documentation, all the legal work for growers of cannabis, which is legal in California,
Right,
up in the mountains.
Yep.
And she started that business, and she's one of the only surviving businesses right now in Northern California.
And her kids are a part of it
They
too,
bought
so
into
it's
it, so
more
they're
of
part of
like
the
a
company.
family business. So yeah.
So I look at her as a role model. She's 7 years older than I am, so she's always been obviously that step ahead of me in a career, and I've always looked up to her and what she's been able to accomplish in her career as well. So she's
Yeah.
been a big inspiration for me.
And so going back to, sorry, I'm kind of all over the place because there's so much information that we can talk about. But going back to the DC, did you move out with Lisa? Then that's the sister who you're referring to, your oldest one, Lisa. Is that who you moved out to DC with then? Was Lisa or was it Teresa, the middle sister?
So Lisa, when she was in college, she went to Drake University. She became a presidential management intern, an intern for the United States government. So she went and interned out in DC through her college at that time. And I had just graduated high school. That's kind of our difference in age.
Right.
I was 17. She told her bosses at the Department of Justice where she was interning, my younger sister just graduated. She doesn't have a job. I think she'd be great for a clerk typist, which is like an entry level at DOJ.
But just getting your foot in the door is
Right.
huge.
And so they just said, if they're anything like you, Lisa, your sister, we will hire her on the spot. I didn't even interview. I went out, met with them.
That's crazy.
Mr. Stanton was his name. Met with them. I took the civil service test. I passed. I did the background check for security. I had a job within a few days, weeks.
That's pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
And then I worked for the Department of Justice and loved it. I didn't know anything about United States trustees or overseeing bankruptcies, chapter 7, 11, 13. I knew nothing, but I learned a lot, and I lived with my sister at that time. We shared a one-bedroom apartment in Washington, D.C., but it was a great experience, and it really kind of led to my inspiration to go to college and major in political science because of the atmosphere in Washington, D.C.
Right, and you're gonna get a lot of politics, obviously, out in Washington D.C.
Yes.
and stuff like that.
Yes.
But going back, like your sister was the kind of the leading headway in that. Obviously, that doesn't just come from you girls being with each other. Obviously, it comes from your parents. What kind of life did you have growing up with? Like, how did all three of you become very successful, hardworking, driven, things of that nature? What was instilled in you at that age by your parents to become those people?
Sure. So my parents are still married today. You don't hear that all the time, right? So
Yeah,
my
what is-
parents have
is
60 years have been
60?
married.
That's nuts,
and
years.
3 daughters. So I have 2 sisters. Lisa's the oldest one, who I've been talking about. Teresa's the middle sister, and then I'm the youngest sister. My dad was an over-the-road truck driver for 55 years, a long time.
Long time,
Didn't
yeah.
even retire till he was 72, I think, is when he finally retired and got off the road. So he obviously, I know it's male, I know that's not our topic necessarily,
No,
but
but
he was a huge inspiration to me. I mean, I didn't get to spend a lot of time with my dad because he was such a hardworking truck driver over the road, sometimes 1 week at a time, sometimes 3 weeks at a time. You know, he missed a lot of my activities growing up. So my mom really was the person that raised us at home. My dad was always integral into my life, but he wasn't always physically there. And so my mom really was the person that raised us, you know, disciplined us, gave us structure, gave us rules, went to all of our basketball and softball and all of our games and activities and cheerleading and homecomings and all that kind of stuff. So I was raised primarily by my mom as my female figure, even though my dad, you know, was still always a huge part of our lives.
And so being raised by not a single mother, like, but that's how we were raised by a single mother and things like that. But how did that kind of push you into being more of an independent woman, because you were raised kind of not, she wasn't necessarily independent. Obviously grandpa supported all of you guys from working and doing that, doing and being gone all the time. But do you think that's kind of why you became independent and like such a strong kind of?
Well, I'm sure it had something to do with it. I don't think about it. I don't reflect on that necessarily. But, I mean, she cooked every night and she did all the cleaning. And if something broke and Dad was gone, she had to fix it. You know, she just had to learn to do stuff on the day-to-day. Again, my dad was inserted. He was, you know, a part of our lives whenever he was there. And even he was only a phone call away, right? He was always a part of our lives. But Mom was there day-to-day. So I guess if I had to look back and say, if I had to point in one direction, where I learned to figure stuff out and be independent and stand on my own and not need a man to help me do everything in my day-to-day, yeah, that'd be my mom.
Yeah. And
that kind of leads into, you know, you said your mom doing all those, doing pretty much everything. If there's something that needed to be fixed, obviously grandpa wasn't there, your father wasn't there, so she had to take on that role. Kind of, let's get into that where, you know, like there's, I mean, it's kind of like women are supposed to do certain thing, or it used to be back
like
then.
Gender roles
and what they're kind of expected to do or be able to do.
So, I mean, go ahead and ask.
So, I mean, what I know back then is like women were like able to, we're supposed to be able to cook and clean and do all like inside housework, where versus the male figure would do all the outside work and did all like the more physical labor and stuff like that. Do you think that is still, to this day, those are still very physical roles for each gender, or do you think it's changed quite a bit or drastically at all?
I think that actually may be a better question for the younger generation and how things may have changed. I will tell you that myself and my husband, Craig, my current husband, we're very old school, so we still take a lot of those traditional roles. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. I do majority of the cooking. I do majority of the cleaning. I kind of do inside house, and Craig does outside house, like cars and trucks and lawn care. And so that's kind of how we've managed it. But I don't know if that's right or wrong, but and again, that's not what I grew up on, because my dad wasn't there 100% of the time, because he was out earning a living and working really hard to support a wife and 3 daughters. So I think just because of the nature of my personal preference and being old school, I think that's how Craig and I have kind of fallen into those roles. Yeah. But I'd be curious what Ashley and Ty say, because you're the next generation up and coming. What do you think of that?
I mean, when we moved into the house together, I said I would do the inside and he said he'd do the outside stuff, but it just seems like the winter has been pretty low sometimes, so then he's just...
When it doesn't snow, I don't have to do anything.
Right, so then I'm always like, feel like I'm always running around, making sure the house is clean and the dishes are done and the laundry's done, but...
I still do help though, so it's not like all like towards you, but like I do still think like, and this may be, it's not sexist by any means, but I still do think like there are certain roles like bricklaying. 99% of the bricklayers in the whole entire world are men. But then so go ahead.
So I'm gonna turn it on you guys, question askers. What do you guys think of gender roles and where they have been, maybe where they're at now, where they should be?
I think that my personal opinion is I agree with I'm kind of old school as well. I think that I know that there's a lot of you know, houses or families that do that, abide by that, or they follow those roles. I mean, I know a lot of the inside's done by the female, and then obviously the male does a lot of the outside work. And I think there is, you know, as far as career wise, I would say, women are integrating into like the male roles. I mean, I know there's a few women that do male jobs, like that are welders or they are, I don't know, like carpenters and stuff like that. There's a few, but I still think mainly that it's still kind of old school, and I still think that the male roles are outside, or all the hardworking labor jobs and stuff like that. And
the
then inside
labor, and then
So you're not in a relationship right now.
Exactly.
So ladies, just so you know, he doesn't have a relationship right now.
Nah.
So where do you think you would fall in a relationship? Where do you think? Do you think you would fall back into the traditional gender roles if your partner was acceptable of that? Because you said you were old school. Is that how you think you might lead your life?
I would definitely want to do
Okay.
the more labor intensive
Sure.
duties around the house instead of being inside and cooking. Even though I am a big cooker, a lot of it's on the grill. But I would still follow those the old school ways. I for sure think. What about you, Ty?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh.
like Ashley was saying, we kind
Playing
of
with
do
balls.
it traditional where when we first moved in together, she would do kind of the inside jobs. I would do more of the outside jobs, like
Yeah,
mowing the
But that's
lawn,
evolved, do you
with
think,
that?
a little bit? Has that evolved a little bit since you've been together?
Oh yeah, I mean, I still do the laundry. I still do the dishes every now and then. It's not like I don't do those,
Oh yeah.
but I feel like, I don't know, it kind of seems silly. I shouldn't say it's not my job, because obviously it's our house, it's ours. Like, it's both of ours. It's not just hers
And-
inside and I'm outside. You know.
Yeah.
Lola
Right.
should learn to pick up her poop, but
And what
that's
I'm
just my
saying is,
thought.
like, I'm
If
not
you can
saying like
teach that, let me
these
know.
like females can't do the jobs that males do and males can't do the job that females do. I'm saying
Sometimes,
because there is times that where if the other partner is gone, or spouse, you have to take care of everything, or you do every specific job. So I'm just saying, like, when the family is together, I do think that they just still follow those old ways.
Right. And do you think evolution has kind of just dignified that? Like, women all, like, in the past have been, stay at home, you cook, you clean, you raise our children.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be out here, I'll be hunting, providing for the family, supporting
Yep.
you guys. Do you think that's just kind of how, like, humans have evolved? Like,
Yeah, but
girls just kind of have that kind of, like, as a nurse, I'm sure you
Yeah.
have that nurturing and caring ability, but do you think, like,
Yeah. I don't know about human nature in general or the evolution of that. I will tell you, in South Dakota specifically, because that's where we grew up and that's where I'm from,
Right.
South Dakota is the #1 state of having two.
household incomes?
Yep.
Yeah.
So mom and dad have to work. And I don't know why that is. Again, is it Midwest work ethic, right?
Maybe,
Ashley,
I
like we
mean,
talked about?
yeah.
Is it just because we don't have the greatest pay, which we live in South Dakota? We know that you can get better pay if you move to a different state. We understand that, or in a different profession. But think about that. South Dakota has the highest rate of dual family income. So what does that say about the way we are, #1, hard workers and advancing our careers, but also taking care of our kids, man and women,
Right.
taking care of their kids, and this whole time. I'll be honest, I think that's phenomenal, and I give a lot of credit to people that live in the upper Midwest
Absolutely.
and are
Right.
able to take care of all of that and more.
And we were talking about this. We just went out to eat earlier, and we were talking about this. And this isn't 100% correct, but a majority of the time, like, say a couple, man and woman, have a kid, and they get a divorce, custody and everything. Majority of the time, the custody goes to the women, whether they're both sane, whether they're both addicted. Like, a lot of the times that goes to the female or the mom of that baby.
Yeah.
Why do you think, is it because of the nature and nurture, like, you just know that the female will probably take better care of the kid, or is it, you know what I mean, or why
I don't know if that's the case. I say that judges look at cases on a case-by-case basis. And I would say if everything on the playing field was equal, like they both had good jobs, they both had good benefits, they were both, not drug abusers,
equal.
and everything was equal on the playing field, I do believe, just because of the innate nurturing effect of women, because we have that bond with that baby in our bodies for 10 months technically,
Right.
and all that nurturing and breastfeeding and that closeness. I think maybe that's why a lot of decisions lean that way. I'm not saying it's right or wrong,
Right,
but I
but-
think that's where the tendency is to give a primary custody legal or physical, whatever, to a mom and then visitation dad, only because of that natural bond that's innate between a mother and a child, because because of physical anatomy and being able to carry that child for 9 months, 10 months.
And then just segueing into what you said previously, how there's a dual income household. A lot of the times, like now, you see a lot of single moms taking care of just the kid. Like it's just the single mom, and especially at my age, 27, they have kids when they're 23. Obviously, I mean, not saying obviously, but a lot of the times that relationship doesn't ever pan out, and so it's a lot of the single moms taking care of the kids, which also shout out to all the single moms out there taking care of kids. You know what I mean?
So did you hear the recent legislation, and I believe, don't quote me, maybe it was talked about in South Dakota, or maybe it was in Minnesota, of requiring fathers to participate in the cost of like the birthing and the childbirth of their children.
The medical.
I saw that.
I'm like, whoa, that again, we're jumping up leaps and bounds as far as men and women equality. Talk about it on reverse. Men's equality of having to be a part of that process financially from the onset, like the medical stay and the birthing. And I can't remember, was it South Dakota or was it another state that talked about it?
I'm not
It's
sure.
not been passed.
I don't think I have heard that, but
Yeah, it was just this
It
week.
would make sense for
I
sure.
think a lot of the time,
Kind of accountability and
Yeah.
the way we're moving to gender equality, making genders equal, do you think that's kind of a topic that like or elementary, middle school, high school kids should be learning? Like, should that be a class?
I don't know
like,
about elementary.
Maybe not
early,
elementary,
but yeah,
but
high
don't-
school for sure. Yeah.
but like gender equality, like things of that nature. Do you think that would be something that, because obviously we're seeing a trend where it's becoming more and more and more unequal, but yet we're still so far. I feel we're still so far apart. Like you said earlier, 80 cents to
80
the
cents
dollar.
on the dollar
So same
for
job.
same job.
Men, women. The woman is getting paid 80 cents to the man's dollar. So 20% difference. Like what? I just don't. Yeah.
Is it
What
an
do you-
80
And
cent?
that-
Is it an 80-cent difference or a 20-cent difference?
We make 80 cents for every dollar that
Okay,
a man
20
makes.
cent
But it's
difference.
still 20%.
But that gap, think about
It's-
this.
but it
That
has
gap is
closed quite a
closed.
bit.
Yeah, we've come a
Yeah.
long way, ladies, but we're not there yet. We're not
Right.
there. So there's still a lot of work for women to do.
We've come a long way, ladies.
Well, I'm just
No, but
saying.
seriously, yeah. I mean, but so what do you think? Is that something that should be taught to young adults? Because they're going to be the ones running the world in the next 20, 30 years. So, like, do you want men or young boys and young girls to know that they are equal? Or would you want a feminist class and then, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you think.
No, because I think that puts more divide on.
I agree.
I think that you just, I don't know. It's just
I
like,
think it just needs to be equal no matter what. Like,
But there are a lot
I
of.
can still be a nurse and the male can still be a nurse. Like, we're
Absolutely.
still
Yeah,
going to
and
be
I-
a nurse.
so what
Like,
I
I
would-
can be president and Evan can be president. Like,
So
it's
what
just
I would-
simple things like
what I
that.
would
Like,
say is, like, I know, like,
there
in high
hasn't
school you
been
have
a
like
female
career
president
fairs.
yet, just saying.
You have career
Yet.
fairs, and you kind of when you're in high school, a senior, or whatever. A lot of I think when I was in high school, and it was not very super long ago, but like they kind of pushed males to go to certain
Construction or
jobs,
hard
welding,
labor,
hard
right,
labor, stuff like
just
that,
like-
and then
yeah.
then they try to persuade the nurses or women to go to nursing
Yeah.
school and shit like that. So it's obviously there's still a huge gap that needs to be covered because I think if you want to get in, like to an equal ground where every job is for each
Right.
you
Yeah,
know,
they did those like
each gender
interest assessments, right? And they would try to guide you based on your inventory that you
Yeah, and then
answer
you-
these questions. This is the field you should go
And
into.
then if you're like in a group of friends or whatever, and
Yeah.
all your buddies are picking this, you're like, oh, maybe I'll pick that and that.
You know,
Peer
I
pressure
think-
does play a
so
lot.
it's
into
definitely in high
I
school.
do.
I think is
I
it's
think-
about that age.
I think it's, I think we just kind of cleared that. It's valid to say anybody can do anything. I don't need,
Yep.
we don't have to have separate classes.
Yeah.
What I think should be taught in high school are things like simple finance, balancing
Oh,
your checkbook,
100%.
changing your oil, how to
There
fix a
is-
tire. I mean, that's the stuff that should be
That's-
taught in high school. I'm just saying.
And there's only really one class available, and that's personal finance.
Yeah.
There should be
Like,
more
there's
than that.
Right, and because half the stuff you learn in school, I'm not saying education's amazing, obviously, but I'm just saying half the stuff you learn in high school doesn't even correlate to real life.
What, you're not using algebra on a daily basis?
Hell no. I mean, I do simple math, like 77 plus 27, to figure out what I have to tip
What-
the
what
lady
is-
and
what's
stuff
that?
at the restaurant. But I'm not. I've never used the Pythagorean theorem
They
ever
need to
in
teach
my
more
life.
real life classes, I believe. That,
I agree.
that
So-
actually,
And I know education, you have to know what 2 plus 2 is, and you have to know that kind of stuff. But that honestly ends at like freshman level. You're done
Yeah.
learning that stuff, and then you just go on to more complicated things. That yes, in some careers you do use that, and others I haven't used any of that since.
Yeah.
And I'm
No.
in insurance.
Yeah.
Like
they need to teach more real life.
I
you know,
agree.
stuff that you'd actually use in the real world. Like it's not
Right.
just about job
Right.
particular, like just
Did you-
actual real life scenarios.
Did you know about insurance coming out of school?
Insurance,
Did you
no,
know how
I
to do a
learned-
401k? Did you know how to
Not
put
at
away
all.
money for
Not at all.
for
That's
like
the
a
stuff I
Roth
learned that
IRA
teach you.
or
actually
like
learned
things?
The basics,
the
not
most info
high
from my
level.
first job
But
at Stanford.
you should know how to.
Absolutely.
Obviously, personal finance, you know how to balance a checkbook, things of that nature. But that's no one uses checkbooks anymore. So I don't
Well,
know why they're teaching that.
Maybe you've met Craig.
Craig,
He still uses
yes,
the checkbook, yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah,
But, like,
um,
I'm just saying, like, there's things that you learn, and we already talked about this. I don't think college is necessarily
It's not the best route for
important
everybody.
unless
it is
you
important
unless
if you're,
you know
if you're,
exactly what you're going
Yeah.
into. So like nursing, if you're gonna go specialize in nursing, obviously you're hands on right away. You take maybe 1 year of generals, and then you're hands on right away into the nursing. Whereas like if you want a business degree, you're just taking generals for 4 years.
But I will stick up for a degree. Mine's poli-sci in criminal justice, which I'm not in right now. I did use that a little bit in my early on career. But I'll tell you, I think even though mine not working specifically in the field that I learned for education, I think going through that 4-year degree teaches you a lot of life lessons
It's a lot
that
of
employers like to know. That you can study, you
Commitment.
can learn, you can
Toughness, yeah.
take a test, you have
Responsibility.
tenacity, you have leadership ability. All those things, when you get that degree, people that are hiring like to see that you have the ability to do that.
I
I'm just
hear
giving
that.
point.
That's nice to know ahead
Yes.
of time, but you can also, yeah. And a lot of businesses don't like taking risks, but like I
Mm-hmm.
know going into an interview, I know I should be hired, and I've had 20 interviews, and I've only had 3 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like I suck at interviewing. I don't know how to talk or present myself in a way where, yeah, you should hire me. Like I just don't have that.
Yeah.
I have the confidence. I just can't portray it out of me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like, yeah.
But you can teach that. You can teach interviewing skills. It's a
Right.
class you can take.
Right.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
one thing I do want to cover, kind of getting back towards I know
Oh, sorry, I got off a little
we
bit.
got a little bit off topic, but not too bad. You want to cover any sports, generalized male and female specific questions?
I do.
Go ahead, man.
So
there's
having I'd probably say like the last 3 or 4 years, it's been a huge deal where
I think the last 3 4.
when transgender became a big thing.
Oh.
You're having males compete in female sports
Mm-hmm.
after they're have transition are in the transition stage or have already
They can
transitioned.
just identify as a female
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
participate. So, yeah.
So what do you guys? I mean, Ashley, how about you? You go first. What do you think about that? You think it's fair? Because they are the gender they say they are. Maybe not biologically, but
Yeah, definitely not binary, but yeah. What are your thoughts on, like, for instance, the male swimmer who
Lisa
was-
Thomas, I think it is, or Leah Thomas.
Yeah,
Lisa Thomas.
Leah
Thomas.
was like 96th in the world in men's.
In men's, and then
but
she won the whole thing.
Goes and swims in the female and gets first in every single competition. Like,
I mean, obviously, like men and women, they both run track, but then you put men with a women, like men are going to outrun them. I mean, I don't know. Like, it just depends.
well, so put it like this: would you want? So I've already asked you this to play co-ed softball,
No.
and you say hell no. Why is that?
Men are they're always portrayed as stronger, and I've just never been ideally with that. So, I mean, I don't know.
A little bit more aggressive, like
Yeah.
and by nature, aren't men stronger than?
Genetically, you are built differently.
Body comp.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you have the ability genetically, just by your pure makeup of your chromosomes, to be stronger, faster. Yes, that's just by genetics. That doesn't mean a woman can't be stronger and faster
Right.
than a man.
No, I'm not
She can
saying
lift
that,
some weight.
yeah.
She can. But yes, genetically,
Well,
that's how you are predispositioned to be. Yes.
Don't you still hold the school record at Axel
Oh, God,
for
no.
squat?
No, that was years ago.
I'm just joking, but no, but yes.
Yeah, so
to
I
your
mean, and you
point,
said co-ed. Co-ed's a little different. This is like for
females
example,
versus females, correct? It's not co-ed, but a female doesn't want to play co-ed because of males.
Well, this is
involved in
this is a male joining
female. All
pretty
females.
much. I mean, all those swimmers were female, and this was a male joining that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. She's afraid to just even play co-ed.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
Just because the males are there.
every sport's going to be different, I think. Like, because then you have women that, I mean, women's wrestling is a huge thing that's coming out now, which is, I think, is amazing
They have their
because
own division now.
And it never started like that either. The women were wrestling in the boys' division.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's wrestlers that I know when I was a wrestling manager in my high school. She was from Brookings wrestling the males, and she like placed and was like one of the top females placing in the state wrestling. So like I think it depends on the sport where the gender thing happens. I would say like women can play baseball, women can wrestle, women obviously can run track, but like men are always going to be faster like that. I think that's just how it's always going to be. Women can play football, women
Yep, seen it in real life.
type thing. So I don't think there should be a gender type set on it. It's probably a harder thing to deal with, but
right. Think about put it in this perspective. If you were the male and you got matched up with that female in high school wrestling, and you're taught from the day you were born never to put your hands on a female, why would you try? Is it different?
Yeah, I think it's a different aspect of.
In wrestling, you're physically harming the other person, or trying to.
No,
you're not harm them, but you're literally trying to pin them against the floor.
Yeah, but you're not.
But
like
she's signing up for that, though. She signed up for that.
Right.
She knew it, so I think it's a sport, and you leave it at that sport.
Isn't it an advantage to that female? Because a high school kid is not going to want to go in there and grab them underneath their legs and flip them upside, but they'll do that with males. So like,
I hear what you're saying, but I think we've grown just past that now, where women have enough female wrestlers that we have our own division now.
But
so
I'm just saying, it never started. It didn't start like that.
Right.
And football, like there's female football leagues out there now.
There's that girl from I think what was it?
Vanderbilt.
She's a kicker.
Yep.
Yeah, and she
the kicker for Vanderbilt. There's actually a Sioux Falls league that's dedicated to just females.
Let's
there's
go back
a whole league dedicated to females. There's
so I wanted you to answer the question that I asked.
Okay, I'm just gonna make this quick point, and then I'll answer whatever question. Back in the day, you guys were really little, and one of my best friends in Pierre, Julie Pollock, her daughter Steph, played for Pierre Governors football. She was a kicker, but that was unheard of back then.
Oh,
we're talking 20 plus years ago. 22 years ago.
She wasn't bashful on kickoff either. She would have laced some.
But she was like the only girl out. I mean,
she would lay some wood on the returner for sure.
So anyway, it's been a long time coming. So anyway, I'm going to make that
kind
point.
of going on your point, like not against your point, but what my question initially is like you kind of mentioned, and I think you mentioned as well, is saying that obviously the male body composition and their genetics you're already stronger. I'm saying having a male go into a female sport and just dominate it and win it all,
right?
And taking all the hard work and everything that the women have put into that sport, because it is a women's sport. You're transitioning and trying to act like you're a male or a female.
Yeah, that's what
I was saying. Going into and dominating another sport,
right? Vice
versa, if a woman went in, obviously.
Exactly. So like to your point, if a male goes in and dominates and just runs the women's league as a female, like male going to a female, obviously there's still a male binary, but if a female goes to a male sport and dominates, we think of her as a badass. Like
we do.
We think they're brave. We think they're courageous badasses. Like there's a girl from Brown University that just played in the collegiate level, fast pitch baseball, hitting 98 mile an hour fastballs. Like why is it like, why do we praise women for coming into male sports, but we demise
my thing is
degrade males?
My thing is like
identifies females going into female
my
sports.
thing is they already have multiple sports where it's just like NCAA women's or like WNBA. They already have general or male gender specific sports,
right?
So why are you trying to go into a different sport? I get that, but like
I think you're missing the point, that these are just people who identify they're in a body that they don't identify. So I know sports are what makes most sense to talk about because that's what's happening in our world today. And this is early on, so we've got a lot of years of revolution
This is just
and
starting,
evolution to
yeah.
happen here. We'll figure this all out with, policies and legislation and whatever throughout the years. But I think we're missing the point that people are born, right, with a gender, most of the time just a singular gender. It happens sometimes they get more, but usually just one gender you're born with. But if you're not comfortable in that gender, don't you have the right to change your gender? I think you have the right. I think you
sure
should be
do.
whoever you want to be.
I don't think you do.
But take the
there's-
sports
I
out
don't
of
think
it.
gives you a
though.
right to compete.
But
in
there's
it.
Take the
kids.
sports out of it, though. But I think that point alone, I think you should be who you want to be. Life is too short not to be happy.
Yeah.
And if you love the same sex, love the same sex. If you don't feel good in your body, change your body.
Right.
If you don't feel good as a female and you want to be a male or vice versa, do it. Life is too short. Be who you want to be.
I 100%
and then
agree with that.
sports is a whole different conversation that you just added an element
It
to.
is. But at like what age do you get to, like 18 when you get to decide that, hey, I want to be a female? Because there are kids out there
Like 10, 11 that are saying that.
that want to be females. I'm just
In
from
South Dakota this year.
I'm just saying, just from like us growing up.
Oh.
You live under my house. You live under my rules. And I'm not saying like you wouldn't approve of us being gay, transgender, anything. Yeah, I know you wouldn't be against that.
Nope.
But I know there are parents out there that don't want their kids to be gay, don't want their kids to be a different, like, you know what I mean? It's against like how they believe. So when is like a good age, or like when are you able to make that decision for yourself that you want to be? Because the brain doesn't fully develop until you're like 25.
And longer in men than it does women.
25.
Women develops quicker than men, just
I
so
think
you
he's
know.
21 and
But in this year's South Dakota legislative session, which now has wrapped up, there was a bill introduced that a child before the age of 16, you had to be 16 or older to make that decision,
Kind of
whether
like
you wanted to have the drugs to change your body, like the
Estrogen or testosterone.
whatever it was, whatever where you want to go, or any type of surgeries or any type of gender changing or affirmations, you had to be 16 or older. So that's a current topic in our South Dakota State Legislature that we're dealing with today.
And it's not just South. It's
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's why I think this is such a new topic that it's going to be years before we actually evolve this out to figure out how it relates to sports, how it relates to. You talked about earlier use of bathrooms. Should you have a general bathroom
in the
use
state,
in
there's
schools
locker
or
rooms,
locker
like,
rooms?
yeah.
One of the
There are so many
governors-
topics.
One of the governors did approve that rule that there will be.
Was it Minnesota? Not
I
Minnesota.
can't remember the state
well,
exactly.
kind of
but
like
there's gonna
family
be,
bathrooms where
kind of like that, but
Kind
it's
of.
going to be a boy and girl or transgender bathroom.
We are we're such in our infancy of growing and evolving
Right.
around this. I think it's going to be years before those decisions are actually final.
absolutely.
I 100% agree. Because I mean, but do you think it's kind of ridiculous some of the things that people identify as
Cats.
dogs, like
Well,
animals,
I think that's ridiculous.
and they dress up as them, they eat food like them, they drink water like.
I mean, to each their own. I mean,
I just don't understand that,
When does
but-
that come to a point where obviously you're not okay mentally, right? Like, obviously you're not okay mentally if you consider you're a human. Obviously, you look in the mirror, you're human. You're not a dog, but you want to act and be treated like it. I don't understand.
That I
like,
don't understand
That's
either. No, that I don't
there's
understand.
some chemical makeup that has to be off, right? Unless they
Unless they're
just
doing it for
really want to,
attention,
like,
something like that. I don't know. I'm
Or
not
do you
sure.
think they were procreated in a different life and came
we're
back
not
as
getting
a
it. We're not
dog?
getting into that.
That's deep.
I'm sorry, I'm
That's
just trying to
deep.
get off the subject.
I
a
do
little
believe
bit.
in that stuff and
I'm just
reincarnation and stuff, but I don't think,
I'm just kidding.
like,
That was just trying to get off the topic.
But yeah, no,
Okay.
100%, and sports is a difficult subject to talk on with
Period.
Yeah.
like females, but I do want to we kind of got a lot of our points out. I mean, I still have a
few
bunch of
You got a few
questions, but
left.
I kind of want to get into like how you guys think of the NCAA tournament that's going on, how your brackets are looking, because I know
I don't
you're
think
in
that's
the
fair.
Two Confrontational pod. We're in the family bracket and everything like that.
I don't think it's fair.
How do you think the brackets are turning out, Mom?
Ashley should answer that question since she's
Winner,
leading.
winner.
Yeah,
Chicken dinner
Ashley
over
is
here.
leading.
My
But no, just like as the just the tournament in general.
Okay,
It's been crazy.
I'll say that in the men's bracket, we're getting down to the Elite Eight now,
Mm-hmm.
and not a number one seed remains. That's unheard of. Okay, I'm just saying yes, my brackets broke because I had picked all the number ones to make it, whatever. But on the female side, I watched a couple games earlier today. I know you said it's not as fun to watch. I love watching women's basketball, love it. And watching like some of the teams today that were undefeated, they went 35-0.
Yeah,
I'm like really good athletes, like amazing athletes. And there's still two number one seeds, so my bracket's not as bad on the women's side. So that's my only outtake. I suck at this game, but it's a lot of fun to play.
Don't suck. You're a pretty good guesser. I just gotta say that. Last like 3 years, you've won 3 years in a row.
No, I won it once. I think.
And then that and fantasy football and then just stuff like that.
Oh no, fantasy football is not a guess.
No, you sure?
She knows a lot more about football.
I know a lot more football than I do basketball. So Ashley should talk to her bracket.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So Ashley,
I don't know what you want me to talk about my bracket. My only team that I got in the.
You got two, I think.
Texas. You got Texas
and
to the championship.
Gonzaga. So
everybody's out.
Yeah.
Those are my two.
Yep. But you are leading. You're in the lead right now.
Tied with Evan.
I'm tied.
Yeah, 48 points each to both of these guys. Our brackets are absolutely trash.
I mean,
I don't think anybody's in the United
States.
States.
That's the madness of it. That's
There's one bracket out of 20 million that had all Elite 8 teams correct.
That's Elite 8. Like their
their brackets aren't perfect.
Oh, no, yeah.
But they have all Elite one bracket, all Elite 8 teams. That's nuts.
That's my puppy Hank.
I think someone just walking by the door.
But here, you want to go see Lola? I think he's fine. But you know how that you go to the ESPN app when we entered a bracket?
Yeah.
I was at 7 million, like after like the first round. I'm like at 13 millionth ranked. I'm like, okay, this is not good.
I'm at like 19th million.
This is not good.
Was not good. But no.
It's okay, Lola.
Sweet 16 just wrapped up the NCAA tournament. We got Alabama got knocked off and Houston. So like Mom said, there is no number one teams left in the tournament.
Last night was a doozy having Houston lose and Alabama.
Yeah, that was crazy. That hurt a lot of people.
A lot of brackets. At least one. A lot of brackets had at least one team.
I think there's still a couple in the two confrontational that had Texas.
The
one that was leading,
Jackson Reeve has Texas
winning
it, and he might end up winning it all. Big Blue.
Yeah, the person that was winning, Nettie O, had UCLA win in, and UCLA got knocked off by Gonzaga. That was a 2 and a 3, so it wasn't a huge upset. It was a very close game.
Yeah, and then Big Blue, they're not going to win. They have somebody else winning it that's already knocked out.
But Cam makes picks. Trevor had Houston. Yeah,
Good job, Trevor.
So I think
there's a couple. There's only a few left that have their championship team in there. So it's coming down to the wire. There's been this. I don't think so. I keep track of our family one. I don't think I've ever had this many red crosses on a bracket.
A lot of big upsets and a lot of teams that you didn't
just
expect to win.
Just a big update. Yeah. Florida Atlantic just beat Kansas State.
Kansas State lost.
Florida Atlantic won?
Florida Atlantic just beat Kansas State.
That was my last.
I just read it on my ESPN on my watch.
Good job.
Kansas State tried to go for a 3 and they missed it. So.
Oh, buzzer.
But great story coming out of Kansas State that
Keontae Johnson
had the heart. I think he had a heart issue on the floor, passed out.
So he passed out on the floor. So yeah, this kid.
It was last year or so. Florida Gators.
Halfway through the game, he just collapsed on the floor while he was playing. Mm-hmm. He needed I don't know if he needed a heart transplant or what happened. He just had a heart murmurs or something, heart disease or something. Comes back, transfers to Kansas State, sits out a year because he had all that transfer
eligibility stuff. Yep.
And
then come back this year, have a hell of a year. He was leading scorer on that team. I don't know how because that like Marquise Noel.
He's a beast too.
Yeah, he's been dominating the NCAA tournament. But yeah, Keontae Johnson was leading that team in scoring. Took him he had a huge shot against Kentucky that took him to the Sweet 16. Mm-hmm. So
pretty impressive story by him. But
yeah, it is an incredible story.
What is Florida Atlantic? They're ranked
ninth seed.
That's huge because they're not going to play any 9th seeds. I mean, I think all the other ones are like 6 and below right now that are still in the tournament. So
so they play. So Florida Atlantic plays.
They'll have to play.
If they beat K-State, they'd be going.
No, yeah, K-State. They'd wouldn't.
They'd have to play.
They'd have to play my brackets.
No, they'd have to play Creighton. Maybe
they have to make it to the Final Four though first. So they have to play. I'm just trying to think. Purdue, Tennessee. So Florida Atlantic came out of the top. Marquette was coming out of the bottom. K-State was coming out of the bottom. Who just beat K-State?
Florida Atlantic.
Florida Atlantic was going up. So who is?
I'm not sure. We'll have to look at it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm
we'll
not
figure
sure
it
who the
out.
exact team is, but I mean, still impressive. Florida Atlantic.
Florida Atlantic. I think. Yeah,
They can make a
nuts.
run. And I mean, that'd be pretty cool if they won it all.
And they have a solid team too. That they have that 7'2" white guy from Russia. Like they have
Yeah.
a solid team.
It's been fun having like having a family one with all of us in it, and then also having our two confrontational one. It's been a blast just following.
It's definitely madness.
Oh, yeah.
March Madness.
a lot of upsets and stuff like that. So
Been good.
Yeah,
Been
crazy.
fun.
Just a little bit of updates on the NFL. Not a whole lot of news happening lately. Ezekiel Elliott is
Got
down to
released.
the last 3 teams that
And
he
of
wants
course
to play
it's the
for.
Jets.
The Jets would be crazy.
and there has been there's been a few signings.
Right, because Elijah Moore got released from the Jets or got traded from the Jets for
To
a
the
couple
Browns.
for a couple second round picks that potentially the Jets are going to use to finish the deal with the Packers to get Aaron Rodgers.
Supposedly they already have their picks. They haven't made any moves. I heard there was no conversations this past week.
But that kind
Involving-
of made you feel like that's why they did that.
And then the Jets stack up again. Like they just got McCole Hardman, speedy receiver on the outside.
Crazy talent on in and out on the offense and the defensive side for the Jets. And like I said, I predict them to go 13-4, make the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl. Actually, I have $50 on them to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, but I think you maybe bet on it at a bad time. I think you bet like what $10 to win 700.
No, so it was plus
You
1,400.
should have bet way earlier.
It was plus 1,400. I put $50.
I thought you bet 10 and to win 700.
I have to look, but it was so I put $50 on the Jets to win. Also put $20 on the Lakers to win the NBA championship.
And they are making a run.
They are making a run. They without LeBron too. So they last time we kind of updated you, I think they were an 11th seed.
They were in 11th, and they've won 2 or 3 games.
Yep. So 2 or
in a
3
row.
games in a row. Austin
know.
Reeves has been carrying
He had
that team.
He had 37. I think their first
35.
win 35 the first
35
game.
and then 25.
AD, and then AD had 37 last night, and Austin Reeves had 11.
25
Austin Reeves had 11 last night.
or last
AD
night,
had
but
37.
the night before.
Yep.
He is the only
And he's
draft
Undrafted, yeah.
undrafted player to average 30 points in 2
he's
games.
supposedly going to be asking for $30 million next year or $50 million.
I don't
for
know about that.
multi-year deal.
Yeah, but his story is incredible too. He went to Wichita State, led his high school team. So first of all, led his high school team to back-to-back state titles in Alabama. Goes to Wichita State. I think wins an NIT or NAIA championship with Wichita State, and then goes from Wichita State to Oklahoma. Averages 18, 6, and 5 for Oklahoma. Makes it to the NCAA tournament, things of that nature. Then goes in the Lakers. First 2 years averages 3 points and like 1 rebound. Doesn't
He had a
even
breakout
play.
year this year.
And then this year he's actually getting
the thing is, they needed him. They needed him to step up, and he did.
right. So
So-
Lakers are looking good. They're in 8th seed right now, so they're in the playoffs.
And I think there's still a game or 2 left. So I mean, and that division is so
It's
tight.
36,
they can
38,
jump.
like
they
the-
can jump to 6 if they needed to.
the 7th to the 12th seed are all 36 and 38.
I think it's even the 5th
Like,
seed.
it's-
I think the 5th seed's like 37, 35.
Yeah, so that's all
And the
really
Lakers are
close.
500,
So
so-
so the West is crazy right now. Everything's coming down to an end. Season's almost over. So then next thing is NBA playoffs or the play-in games, and then the NBA playoffs. So we're excited for the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
Like Kyle said, like we said, March is probably one of my favorite months. We got the NCAA tournament going on.
You got the
Golf
combine.
is still going on. So they just had the Dell Classic match play. And if you don't know the difference between match play and stroke play, yeah, check it out because this match play was crazy. They do 5 days instead of 4. They play pod play and they get out. So $25 million purse. Scotty Scheffler's still in it. Rory McIlroy's still in it. Max Homa's still in it. Yeah. 8
John
people
Rahm?
left.
Your favorite John Rahm?
I don't think John Rahm's in it. I think he lost today, and I think he went 1 and 2 in pod play, so he didn't quite make it out. And that's the thing; it's not the same as going
Stroke play.
like stroke play. Like you're not playing
Like a
against
regular game of golf.
you're not playing against your score. You're
Right.
playing against one other person. So they could shoot a 7 on a par 3, and you just have to shoot a 6.
Mm-hmm.
And that score doesn't get added up. You're just up 1 on the hole. So it's super interesting.
It's more head to head.
Yeah, and anybody can win. Like Kevin Kisner, one of my favorite golfers, isn't the best at competing just openly, like in the stroke play. But when it comes to match play, he dominates everybody.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a $10 parlay on him to win the whole thing. I don't even know if he's still in it though, so I might have lost that one.
You might want to check on that.
But
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, just crazy stuff going on. Sports are still ramping up, but I'm thankful, honored, pleased to have two incredible women come on the podcast today and speak about Women's History, not necessarily about Women's History Month, but what their history
Their own
as women were growing up, getting to the points where they're at today. You still have a lot of time left. I don't know about you on
Stop,
there. I'm
please.
just joking.
No.
But no, yeah. So kind of just to wrap it up, I mean, just one last question, and this is kind of a deeper question, so I wanted to save it for last, but where do you see yourself in, two-part question, 5 years from now, and then say 10, 15 years down the road?
Do you want me to go first or Ash to go
You
first?
can go first.
Well, I hope I'm still
You're in the
alive
hot
in,
seat.
in 5 to 10 to 15
Well, don't
years.
say that.
No,
But
no.
so are you
Well,
gonna
earlier
be,
you told me I was ready for retirement, so
No,
I
I'm
thought
just
that
saying.
was getting closer than I actually thought. I see myself at least for the next 5+ years right here where I'm at. I love Sioux Falls. This is where I grew up. This is home. This is where 3 out of our 4 boys live, and 2 grandkids, but one not right here, but one on the way very soon.
Yep.
Do any
shout out
day now.
Shout out to Zachary and Anastasia Barber for having second baby girl
Second
is
girl,
on the way.
Anytime now.
Yep.
Super excited.
Yeah, so
but
we're
no,
excited
with
for
kids and
that.
grandkids here, close. I think Craig, and then are still Craig's mom still in the nursing home in Gregory. This is where we'll stay,
Right.
and we're the closest family to her right now. As long as she's there, we'll be here. Beyond that, like you talk 10+ years, and that's closer to retirement. I'm not gonna say how old I am, but I'll get closer to that age. Yeah, we probably will try to move south somewhere. I might still have to work because we're not ready to fully retire, but I'd definitely like warmer weather and get away from shoveling snow every 3 days like we have
Heck
been
yeah.
this winter. Thank you very much. I'm done with that. But no, I think we'll keep on plugging away where we're at, and we love our home here in Sioux Falls and our lake at Ponset, our lake cabin up there. So I think we'll stay here for at least 5+ years.
Yeah, we'll definitely want you to stick around for at least 5 more years so we can take advantage of the lake cabin. We just want that always to be there. Keep it in the family, so if you ever think about moving, pass it down. But serious question on the next 5 years, do you think there'll be another career change as far as going from Compass Center or MS Society, Multiple Sclerosis Society, to Compass Center, to Habitat, to American Red
Yeah.
Cross? Do you think there'll be another maybe executive position maybe down the road?
I've kind of been on that 5-year trend, have I? For every 5 years, I
Yep.
kind of move myself up. It'd have to be almost the perfect opportunity for me at this point in my life to make that jump. I've got a great job. I work 99% at home right now for Red Cross. I go in the office when needed. I've got a great board. I love my 27 counties. I got great staff. Everything's good right now, so it'd have to be a pretty sweet deal. Am I looking? No, but if the opportunity were to come up, would I apply? Probably, because I wanted to keep on moving myself up in my career. So we'll
Meanwhile,
see.
wouldn't you, right?
Right. So
And then just to top that off, just the cherry on top, with having been a part of state and federal government, working for nonprofits for 20 years, and just in Sioux Falls, do you think you've accomplished what you wanted to, or are you content with what you've done with your life or career? Because retirement is coming up here in the next 10, 15 years. So are you wanting
You
to
think
push?
you think you could hang it up right now and be satisfied or content with what you've done in in the society and what you've done for yourself?
personally and professionally, yeah, I think I'm satisfied. Am I always
Wanna go check on
am
that?
I always wanting to do more? I don't think I'm ready to stop wanting to do more. Could I retire today? Yeah, if I was financially able to, blah blah blah. Yes, of course. I think I could, just knowing I've done good, in mission and in life, and being a leader and being a contributor to our community. Yes, but I don't think I'm done yet. I think I've got good, regardless, 10, 15 years left in me to lead and to expand and to grow. And I'm not done learning. I think you should continue to learn every single day of your life
yeah,
and push yourself every
absolutely.
day. I never want to get in my career where I'm complacent, which I'm not. But if I ever feel that way, then yeah, I'm going to need to keep on pushing myself until I feel like I've done all that I can do, and I'm not quite there yet.
So you never are looking for that steady plateau of just contentness
No.
and you're always striving to
Yeah.
what's the next best thing, not just for income wise, but for yourself,
personally
as
and
to
professionally.
grow.
Yep.
Yeah, as to grow
that's
as a
just me.
person.
That's who I am innately.
Right.
I'm not saying that's for everybody, but
Moving-
that's where I am.
Yeah, and then moving laterally is not an insult or anything
No,
like that. So like if
absolutely
you
not.
are content with where you're at, like as for instance, and we'll get to Ashley here in a second, but for being a nurse for 2 years, I guarantee you're going to want to be a nurse for probably the rest of your career, right? You think you found your career path. Maybe it's not being an ICU neuro nurse, but you're going to want to, just from what I've picked up on how much you love your job and how much you come home and are either stressed because all of the stuff going on, but you still love it, or you're just happy and you have a happy story to tell. Where do you see yourself in like the next 5 years for now, and then later on 10, 15 years down the road?
Yeah, so I guess 5 years I would be graduated from nurse practitioner school.
Yeah, we didn't really get into that. So yeah, congratulations to Ashley. So she's got a nursing degree, all that good stuff. Spent 4 years. Now she's going on an additional 2
Yep,
2 years
2
to
years.
get a nurse practitioner's job. So, or certificate, degree, whatever. So yeah, congratulations. So I just wanted to say that quick. But yeah, going on. So yeah, 5 years probably.
Yeah, so 2 years, have my nurse practitioner degree. It's hospital based, it's an acute care program. So I hospital based somewhere. I have no idea, I guess kind of wherever it takes me. I know we talked about how we want to just stay in the Sioux Falls area. It's a good family town, I guess.
To raise the family for sure.
I don't know. It's hard to say, especially with nurse practitioners, because you can be a nurse practitioner in the clinic or you can be in a hospital. Just kind of depends where and what I find my passion to be in there.
So staying 5 years for sure, you're staying in the nursing field.
Oh,
is that kind of where you're thinking you're staying your whole entire career path as like in that particular field? Maybe not as like a nurse, like on the floor, like in the field, but like for instance,
I'll be in the nursing field for the rest of my life. Medical field, everything, rest of my life. Nurse practitioner is almost the same deal. I just work under another doctor. Work with my nurses too. So I guess there's no matter what, I will never get away from nursing.
And we need all the nurses that like we're short nurses, right? Is that like a proven statistic? A lot of your nurses, maybe not in the hospital, but especially on your floor, are a lot of travel nurses, right?
Right, yeah. I don't know a statistic of how short nurses we are, but I would say half of our staff right now is travelers. We rely pretty heavily on them. I appreciate those travelers that have come in. There's some that are some of the smartest people I've known, worked in some of the hardest places I would ever imagine. They've seen way more than I've ever seen, especially because we don't have a lot of things in our ICU, neuro ICU either. So, I mean, I appreciate all of them and would do absolutely anything.
Heck yeah. So where do you think you see yourself? So going on nurse practitioner school, completing that, obviously that's your next kind of stepping stone in this. But what about 10, 15 years down the road? Are you going to still be on the floor in the field, going into patients' rooms, helping them, stuff like that? Or are you going to try to maybe take like a teaching job? Because I know you like doing that type of being the leader and stuff. And obviously as a teacher, you're the main person. You're the only one people are listening to, you know?
Right. I don't think I will ever be like a college professor teacher. I guess that's hard to say, honestly.
And you said you never were going to be a nurse too, so.
Yeah, I know. Who knows what could change in like 10, 15 years. I don't know. That's a hard one to think about.
What about besides?
I think I'll just be either in the hospital or a clinic-based job.
What about besides occupation? Where do you see yourself in like 5, 10, 15 years? Like
having a family, kids.
Did you guys hear that?
Breaking news. The first ones to hear.
No, there's not a ring. Still waiting on that patiently. Hang out with this little monster that's running around in the camera, Lola.
Yeah.
Sorry for any interruptions of her.
No,
but
don't worry about it.
She's the next top lady in this family, so.
Yeah, so we do. Yeah, so yeah, kind of next 10, 15 years, at least for me, like you said, I'm trying to start a family. We got a little one going right now with this little monster, handful right now. But yeah, super excited to kind of. I've seen it in our family with Zachary and Channing, our stepbrothers, having little kids. It just fills my heart, and yeah, I love being an uncle to those kids, but can't wait to have one of my own. So yeah, that's kind of where I see myself in the next 5, 10, 15 years. What about you, Evan?
Mine's all career oriented, working my way up the ladder wherever I go, whether I stay with Sanford or any. Mine's more career. I'm not at this moment. I'm not looking. I don't have a girlfriend yet, so I'm not.
Mom did say she's single, ladies.
He's single.
No, mine's all career oriented. I want to be able to
chasing that
take care
bag.
of myself. Yeah, I'm chasing the bag for sure. So
no, that's kind of that's it. There's no certain time limit, is there, Mom? Is there a certain time limit on when you need to settle down, or expectations set on you to like when you need to have a girlfriend or a wife or anything like that, or does it all come to each their own, kind of personal?
To each their own.
I mean,
No
look
expectations.
at Uncle Rich. He's doing just fine.
Right, and he's in his 50s, married
He's
for
got
the first
he's got a
time. He's got
3-year-old.
2 twin 6-year-olds.
6-year-old, yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, and
Yeah.
he's my age or a little
Right.
bit older. I'm like, good for you. No, I think things, again, the traditional way when women used to get married when they were 16, 18, right?
That's
Get married and have
wild.
lifelong
That's
marriages. That is, I think, of the past.
Yeah.
I think people wait to get married.
Mm-hmm.
You wait till it's the right time for you. It's
Yeah.
the right person. You're stable. You have a career. You've got a puppy that wants the little purple pig underneath your feet.
Yeah.
You know, you just wait until those opportunities arise. No expectations, no time limits. They're out the window.
Yeah,
you
so
go.
take it as you go, dude.
Yep.
There's no rush to really anything.
Nope.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does kind of. Social media does play a huge impact. Like, for instance, if you're checking social media, you see your friends getting married, you see your friends having babies. It kind of just, I should be doing that right now, but that's not the case. Even though you may feel like that, definitely not true at all. So
Nope.
there's no rush at all into. That's a commitment. It's
Over here.
potentially a lifelong commitment.
It should
and
be.
like you said, grandpa lived in that era.
Yep.
And they how old was grandpa? 21 and grandma was 17 or something, like
They're 5 years difference, but yeah, they were very, very young when they got married.
super
Yeah.
young. So like that obviously it is changing to
It
where
is.
people get married when they're 40 years old. Like
Absolutely.
they're single, they may be talking to a few people here and there, but then 40 years old, then they finally decide to kind of like settle down.
Craig married me when he was 36.
There
Yeah.
you go. See, there's no.
So there you go.
Craig's happier than ever. So
Yeah.
Happier than a pig in shit, as he would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no, we'll probably wrap it up. I don't have a whole lot of other questions here, but I just want to thank my mom, obviously,
course.
Patty, and then my
Yeah,
girlfriend
thank you guys
Ashley
for coming on and giving
on.
your viewpoints on our topic today.
Thanks
for
having us.
Really
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you for having me.
We appreciate. We're always looking for more guests. So if any of you guys want to come on, please comment down below or anything like that. Hit the subscribe, like button, all that good stuff.
Yeah, hit that.
But no, yeah, just super thankful to have these guys on, and we're thankful for all the women out there. We appreciate, love, and respect the heck out of you guys. I try to make it
you
without.
made the whole
But
podcast.
no,
wow.
we respect the fuck out of you guys. Like I said, I think women are pretty much the backbone of our society, and they keep us there, even though men do like a lot of the hard labor and physical stuff and like stuff like that. But women are always there, always have our backs, and we're just blessed to have 2 incredible women sitting next to us today and having our lives for the past 27 years in the past 2. So
Behind every good man is a great woman.
that
There you
is
go.
true.
There you go.
Man-made. So so we'll call it quits here. Just want to thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you.
Do you have any closing words for everybody, Evan?
No, it's like he said, hit the like and subscribe button and keep on watching. And we appreciate every person that does watch, even if it's 15 minutes to 30 minutes. We appreciate it, and thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, with that being said, we don't have anything else. We'll see you guys next week, probably.
Next week, yep.
We're excited for this one to come out. This one will probably come out on Wednesday. Next week, the 20th.
It'll be 29th.
29th or something like that. But yeah, so we're excited for this one to drop. A huge podcast. We got Mama Patty on, and we got
Finally.
Ashley Chenoweth.
There we go.
And both of them. I don't know if Mom was as nervous. She's done a lot of public talking, but Ashley definitely was nervous coming on. So yeah, don't be too hard on her in the comments and everything. But no, I thought this was a great podcast. We appreciate you guys coming on.
Absolutely.
And then until then, I don't have anything else. Anybody want to say any last closing
Anything,
words?
Nope. Later.
All right.
Peace.
Thanks for
Go
coming.
Cool.
Thanks
Cool
for
Falls.
tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.
Too
Peace.
confrontational.